What do you do when a $100,000 gift drops into your hands, but instead of feeling secure, you're now worried it could slip straight through your fingers? That's today's mailbag question from a couple with a giant mortgage, no savings, and a long list of goals from home repairs to maternity leave. Let's figure out how to make sure that money doesn't just disappear and instead sets them up for the future. Welcome to Ask the Experts, where each week we talk to people in the industry to get the answers you need right now. Now, just a wee reminder before we get into this, of course, we are answering a letter here, but we don't know the full financial situation, just what's in the letter. So this is general financial information. For individual financial advice, you will need to go and see a financial advisor. Making Sense has partnered up with EnableMe to get you the strategies for reaching financial freedom faster. Visit enable.me today. Helping us to figure this one out, Katie Wesney, head strategic coach, EnableMe. Are you ready for the letter?
Ready.
Yes, let's do it. All right. Hi, Frances. My partner and I have a giant mortgage for a tiny house that we love. We have no safety net savings, basically no money left at the end of every pay cycle, but we are comfortable, not struggling. My partner's parents have had a windfall and they're gifting us $100,000. But they've asked that we seek financial advice on how to use it. I am struggling to find the right person to discuss this with, as my research into financial advisors keeps leading to people who want to invest the money in funds, whereas we have more immediate needs for some of it. So, our goals are mortgage relief, more accessible cash, ability for me to take a year off work if I fall pregnant, making our home warm and dry. We require around $38,000 to make improvements to our home in order for it to be warm and dry. We're talking new roof, heat pump, extractors, clothes dryer. 50% of our mortgage is up for refix 1 month after we will receive this $100,000 gift. Who can I speak to that will take all of this into consideration and advise a tailored plan for this money? Surely there is a way to leverage it to best achieve our goals. I think as well, what strikes me on this, the idea of a $100,000 gift sounds amazing, but I think you immediately hear the pressure to do the right thing with this. Is that something you see a lot?
Oh, all the time. I strike this lots with my clients in terms of a windfall or from somebody or an inheritance. And I think there's an emotional load to do the right thing, a little bit of judgment potentially if the giver is still with us in terms of really doing the right thing morally, and financially.
Yeah. I think I've talked about this yonks ago when I talked about, lottery wins. And it's that classic thing of a lottery win can actually, after a few years, send someone backwards because this windfall money it hits a funny thing in our brain, right? Where we feel all this pressure, we want to do something with it, but it also feels like money that appeared from nowhere, so you can spend it on all this stuff. It sort of triggers all this funny wiring that we trip over ourselves, right?
Easy come, easy go as well. And I think you just have to have a really solid plan around it, really figure out priorities and then just execute on those.
Okay, so if they came into your office and they said, here's all the things we want to do, and it sounds like a long list of things they want to achieve for starters. If you're sitting down, you're listening to them, laying all of this out, what are your initial thoughts?
Yeah, so I think they've got lots of different competing priorities. And again, we just have to sit and prioritise those in the context of their wider plan. And obviously, when we're discussing this letter, we don't know the backstory. So kind of need to know kind of where they're at. They say giant mortgage. How big is said mortgage? Well done being in the property ladder. Do they have other children, etc.? So those are the things we don't know. But in terms of the 100,000, I love that they're thinking debt reduction. But I also think that when they talk about the safety concerns of their house, I almost think that leapfrogs everything in terms of their house is likely their biggest asset. We need to protect it, and their safety and well-being in it isn't really important. So I actually would prioritise that 38,000, I think you said, in terms of costs. So I kind of put that off to the side because, again, let's make sure that that house is fit for purpose. There's longevity in that in terms of health, etc. Because, again, kind of hard to put a price on that. we have 38,000. But so I'd kind of push that off to the side. In terms of a safety net, I think that's really important. And the balance to be had is, wouldn't it be easy just to put all of that on the mortgage and think, check us out? But what I don't like about that option is that if you just sink it into the mortgage, what if something happens and you get a curveball and you have no emergency fund? You're right back into really stressed, not feeling that you're winning in terms of kind of what comes next.
Mm-hmm.
Also, the trick with mortgages is when you tend to need money, often it's at the point in time when you can't access money from the bank. Yeah. For example, when you fall pregnant and you're on maternity leave and you're like, shucks, should I have really put all of that money on the mortgage? And you go to the bank and sadly you don't.
They look at your income and
no serviceability. So they're like, computer says no. So that's really tricky. So I think that safety net really plays into this. And so I'm thinking, well, how do we be clever around this? And for me, that would be, well, why don't we create a revolving credit?
Genius. Yes. Okay. Yep. So for those who haven't heard, but of course you had a brilliant, you have done some other revolving mortgage episodes with us. If people want to go back in the archives, look for Katie's episodes for starters. They were all good, but you've done some great revolving mortgages. For anyone who hasn't caught up on that, revolving mortgage is basically you can put money onto that. You're no longer being charged the mortgage interest on that, but, revolving door, hence the name. You can, if you need, take that money back out. The trick being, make sure you're a person who's good with debt because you don't want to be digging into that for things you don't need, but it's good for having that in emergencies. That is so smart. And as you started to talk then, I was like, oh, she's going to say revolving. And I hadn't thought of that when I looked at this letter. That's such a smart solution.
Yeah. We offset the debt, so we reduce the interest that they have to pay thereafter. But what I love about that revolving credit is they can still access it, and I think that's really important. Also knowing that they'd love to fall pregnant at some point in time, but that's hard to fit into a financial plan because who knows how long that will take. But it means that they can make more progress thereafter. They've got the immediate benefit. You think, well, 60-odd thousand that you're not having to pay interest on, that's a whack of interest saved. And we're kind of ticking off all of those different priorities. That feels like a really good outcome for them.
Not so fun fact. When you take on a 30-year mortgage, you'll probably pay more than double what you originally borrowed because of the cost of interest. That's probably not the Kiwi dream you bought into. The team at EnableMe specialise in taking charge of your money and growing your wealth, including how to get rid of your mortgage faster. Book a consultation with an EnableMe financial advisor today by visiting enable.me.
And it is tricky, isn't it? I mean, when I first saw that, I was like, oh, this list of priorities might be too long. But actually, the way you've rationalized that there, I think there's actually so much they can achieve with this. When you're helping people figure out their priorities on this, and they're clearly at a bit of a transitional stage of life, how do you help them sit down and be like, okay, what is truly our biggest priority? What sort of tough questions would you be asking them?
We start by saying, well, paint me a picture. What is the financial vision or goal that we're trying to strive towards here? I think that's really important. And we try and get quite specific and time-bound around that. And I think, Frances, we always acknowledge that there are seasons of life and there are seasons to make progress. When you are on maternity leave, there are seasons to hold your ground, and we acknowledge that in the flavour of our lives. And I think making sure that we have longevity in a plan in terms of we're doing the right thing now, but also we have an eye to the future. I think that's really exciting for people. And as we said, acknowledging the things that we're doing well, we celebrate, and the things that we're working on, well, that's okay. We be kind to ourselves, but we anchor ourselves to, well, what else could we do into the future? I think that's important.
100%. And I also want to touch on something that they mentioned right at the beginning, where they were looking for someone to help them make these sorts of decisions.
Yeah.
But the only financial advisors they'd come across were people who were, looking at investing in funds.
Yeah.
There are so many more different types of
There
financial
are.
advisor, right? How do you go about finding one who can give this sort of holistic view?
Yeah, so I think you're looking for a financial advisor like myself who gives advice and charges a fee for it. So it's not product-based advice. And I've got amazing colleagues who give product-based advice. There's lots of amazing advisors, but that's not really what you are after in this instance. You're after, well, what should I do from a financial planning perspective, looking at all the different levers in terms of what I could do, what would be the best thing for me. So when you're looking for a financial advisor in that regard, you're looking for someone who's fee-based, like a coach like myself.
Yeah. So financial planner, financial coach, those are the sort of key words we're looking for.
Yeah, that is fee-based because, there's this fallacy that you DIY it in New Zealand, and I think that really does cost us dearly. And also, why would I speak to a fee-based advisor versus an advisor who is free? But again, everyone needs to be paid for their time. The reason why they're free is they get
free
commissions.
in quotation marks. Very much.
Commissions, which great, they're providing a service, but
it's just not actually free.
Exactly.
It's wrapped up elsewhere.
You just got to understand and be pragmatic about it. If the advice gets you ahead faster than you would by yourself, then grab it with both hands and execute on it. If you're after that kind of product-based specialist advice, well, then you go for that product specialist and they will get paid via commission, essentially.
Yeah. So someone walks into your office, they've had a windfall of whatever type, whether it's this or an inheritance or, hey, a lotto win, yay. What's your probably the biggest thing you'd want them to think about? Your number one top tip?
Yeah, protect it. Protect it. If it is coming from one parent, I would strongly encourage the child of that parent to protect it. And that generally is, and obviously this isn't legal advice, you'd go and see a lawyer, but the deed of acknowledgement of debt is really useful because remember, as soon as that is gifted to you and you blend it, so you put it on the mortgage, that becomes relationship property. And if something happens to you and your partner in a few years' time, that gets divvied up between the two of you. And that very likely is not the intention of the giftee in terms of what comes next. So firstly, protect it. I think you sit with it for a little bit. Like there is no rush, but also don't sit with it too long. So kind of 30 days, kind of sit with it. Write down goals in terms of what you might like to do with it. I would seek qualified financial advice that is independent and then execute on it. I think also, we talked about this prior to recording, just taking a couple of grand and just spending it however the heck you like. There's grace in that as well. No judgment, no guilt, just enjoy it because that's life.
Oh, 100%. If you've got 100K, you take 2K of it to just enjoy, that's 2%. And life is so short.
It really is.
And to celebrate these moments of, oh, gosh, a windfall, and we could use this to really make something from it, a new roof or whatever. That might sound boring. That actually sounds real exciting to me. A new roof is exciting.
Yeah.
But, to do whatever, to maybe get a chunk onto Revolving, whatever. It is exciting. So also take the moment to celebrate because we're really good as people to take these goalposts and move them right before you hit them. And life will be so miserable if you do that. Yeah. The financial advisor permission to enjoy your money life?
Absolutely. And we're like A-types, right? We love goals. We love ticking things off, but it's all about that next goal. And I think you've got to take a moment to celebrate the wins because I always think the anchor point for my clients is let's live the best version of your life. And so what does that look like? Let's make sure that is the life that we lead and it's all about balance. So enjoy your life.
Love it. Love it. Great note to leave it on. Thank you so much, Katie Wesney from EnableMe. Now, we're answering as many of your questions as we can, so hit me with more of them. Let's get some expert thoughts on your situation. ask@franciscook.co.nz is the place to email those through to. That's also linked in the description of the podcast, so you don't even have to worry about what it looks like, how it's spelled, whatever. Do send this episode to a friend if it was helpful to you so we can all level up with money together. Until next time, have a great day.
Just a note before you go. This podcast can only give you general information about how things work in most cases. It's not individual financial advice. We're all different, so some of this might not apply to your specific situation. Take what works for you, ignore the rest. If you're after individual financial advice, a financial advisor is always the best bet.